guys, welcome back, or if you're new, hello. So today I wanted to tell you guys a story about how I met my boyfriend. I haven't really done a story time yet. This is my first one, so since I really love to talk in real life and I really love to tell super long-winded stories in real life, I thought this would be perfect and would translate onto camera. So I'm going to start out by telling you kind of a little backstory about set the time and the place. So it was my first year at Wellesley. I had just gotten into college or just entered college. And I was like a little freshman. I was super nervous about things and I had, no experience. I got room with this girl, Alina. Well, it was more like we chose each other. It was a little complicated, but her roommate's name was Alina, and she and I kind of got along in the beginning. We weren't super good friends, but we got along, and most of our hall hung out together. And so I would go to the org fair, like maybe the second week. I remember it was October, or around end of September, beginning of October. So I go to the org fair, and I was thinking, you know what? I want to join a robotics team, because I did in 8th grade, and then I stopped. I didn't do it during high school. And then, out of one whim, I was like, you know what? I want to join one in college. So I'm going to the org fair, and I can't, find anything that has to do with robotics until I stop at this booth called RoboGals, which is where, college students kind of teach younger children about STEM concepts and things like that. And it wasn't what I wanted, but I ended up doing that anyway. So I emailed one of the professors in the CS department asking, hey, I saw that you taught a winter session class, a really short class on robotics, and I was wondering whether or not, you knew about any organizations at Wellesley. And he emailed me back and saying no, Wellesley doesn't have a robotics team, but I can connect you with another student who wants to do the same thing. So he sends me my email to this other student. Her name was Nizreen, and Nizreen and I got together for lunch one day, and the next day or a few days later, and so we talked about it, and we were like, we both want to join a revised team, but we don't know, where and what team, because Wellesley doesn't have one. And she told me that she did some research, and that she found this one team at Harvard. It's a joint Harvard MIT team called RFC Cambridge. And she showed me, she emailed the president at the time. Her name is Kate Donahue. And Kate Donahue was like, yeah, totally, come visit our first meeting, or one of our first meetings. So we that weekend we got onto the bus that goes to Boston, and we sat together and went to this meeting. And the president had given us a number and said, call this number if, once you get there, and this person will take you to the right meeting room. Because at the point, we had no idea where to go and, what Harvard looked like. We were super crazy newbies. So we get to the stop, go to John Harvard statue, and we call this number, and we wait. And then suddenly some guy answers, and he's like, hello. And we tell him, hey, we're ready to be picked up now. We have no idea where we're going. And he was like, oh, I had no idea I was supposed to pick you up. So he runs over, from the science center, or the Maxwell Dworkin building, all the way to the Harvard, the courtyard, which is a decent amount, a few minutes away. And he meets us there, and he apologized. He's like, oh my God, I had no idea that I was going to meet you here. I'm so sorry. And I remember thinking that he was really cute. And at this point in time, he had this really cute gap in his teeth. The second, he had 2 front teeth. It was the second biggest here. It was missing. And I thought that was really cute. And so he takes us, to the meeting. He kind of walks ahead of us, and he's making small talk and whatnot. And oh yeah, I remember he actually didn't go all the way to the courtyard. We called him and he told us to meet him in the science center. And so we were sitting outside the Science Center when he met us. So he says hello, and we're making small talk. And, it was maybe like 5 minutes to walk to the Maxwell Organ Center. And then after we got there, we went to the meeting. I really liked it. I thought everybody went there was really nice. I remember thinking that this other guy was really attractive. And anyway, so the next day, I come back and I'm like, oh my God, that was a lot of fun. I want to go next week. So I told my friend that, and she said that she wanted to go next week too. And then next week comes, right? And I text my friend. I'm like, oh my God, like, where are you? Let's go to the meeting. And she's like, oh, you know what? I actually changed my mind. I don't want to go to the to the meeting. I realized I don't have enough time for it. So I'm like, oh, well, that sucks. So I go to the meeting with myself. I take the bus by myself, and I asked her to text me the number of the guy that she had called, to help us get there. And so she gave it to me, which was Eric's number, my current boyfriend's number. And when I got there, I called him, and I was like, oh, and I remember like this time, I actually met a friend in Boston. I remember like, so I went there alone, but one of my friends like was going to Boston anyway, so it's going to be back to me in bits and pieces. So I might like remember certain things later on that I didn't mention. So a friend of mine, we wanted to go get boba at the Boston tea shop. She really wanted boba, and we used Google Maps, and we're like trying to navigate our way there. And then finally we get there, and I'm like, oh crap, it's like time for the meeting to start. And I have no idea how to get back to the right building, right? Like, because I was supposed to meet him at, I think the courtyard, the Harvard statue, or the Science Center, which is where we were last time. But I was at the Boston tea shop, and I literally had no idea how to get back. So I call him, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry for making you travel so far, but I'm stuck at the Boston tea shop next to the Staples Center, and I have no idea how to meet you or to get to the right place. So he's like, oh, it's totally fine. And so, I wait with my friend for about maybe 10 minutes, and then he shows up, and he's like, and he's really nice about it. And he took me back to the right building, and it was like really, and then my friend obviously left, and she was like, goodbye. And again, the meeting was really fun. So I remember after the meeting was over, the two presidents, they were like, let's have like a bonding social dinner. So they took all of us. I was the only Wellesley student there, and everybody else was like Harvard students. I think there might have been like a few MIT people. I'm not really sure. They took us, to this dining hall, and we're all like talking and hanging out, and it was really funny. My friend, she like knew that I couldn't bring, a random, like she knew she couldn't like get people who weren't Harvard students couldn't eat at the dining hall. So she like specifically picked this one dining hall where you could like pretend to have silverware and walk through the back entrance or the exit, and nobody would like question it. So she went to get like empty glasses from the dining hall, gave them to me and like a few other people who couldn't eat there, and just had us like confidently walk through the exit, which I thought was pretty funny. And so we ended up getting food, and I like sat around this table with like a bunch of people, and like I was talking, and I don't remember really noticing Eric like a huge amount. I don't know. I think it was just like I was socializing with everyone. I wasn't like specifically like flirting with him or anything. At least I don't remember. Maybe he has a different version of the story. And then after the dinner's over, I'm like, oh, I need to catch this specific bus back to Wellesley, because like our buses run an hourly schedule, and it's like kind of annoying. So everybody starts getting out to leave, and as I'm leaving, Eric ends up leaving with me. Just out of coincidence, I think. And then we stop, and he's like, oh, do you know your way to the stop? And I'm like, yeah, I think I know my way to the stop. Somehow I knew the way to the stop. I don't know. I was at that point confident in my skills in getting back. So I was like, yeah, I don't need any help. I'll get to the bus stop myself. And so he's like, okay, fine. And he kind of leaves, and he goes the opposite direction. And I go into the other direction, and I get there, and I want to say that I texted him first. I'm pretty sure I did, at least. So I, thought, like, why not? He tried to talk to me, and he's nice. So his number, actually, I had gotten from my friend, who had gotten it from the president. So I actually never had to ask for his number, which is nice, because it sucks, like, asking someone for their number, because it's, like, because you don't want to get rejected, you know what I mean, if they're not interested. But I already had this guy's number, so that was really lucky. So I texted him, and I was like, hey, I got to the stop, and I think he might have at some point, like, in our conversation before I left, like, mentioned that the stop was next to this really good Mexican restaurant. And so I was like, he said also it was, like, next to a church. So I saw the church, I didn't see the Mexican restaurant, and I was like, oh no, I think he texted me that. So I was like, hey, I got to the bus stop. Thanks for, checking up on me and whatnot. And he responded, yeah, like, where is bus stop exactly? And I was like, oh, it's next to this church and this statue. And he was like, oh, I know where that is. There's, like, a really good Mexican restaurant near there. And I was like, oh, interesting. I like Mexican food. And then I remember, like, we just, after I sent that text, we just, like, started texting really regularly. So, like, when you first started texting, it's, like, all new and, like, shiny, and, it's, like, we would do this game where we would send, like, long paragraph texts, like, now that's, like line after line. It would be, like, one long text with, like, 15 lines on them. And so, we would do this waiting game, too, where, like, I didn't want to seem like I was too eager if he wasn't texting, eagerly as well. So I would, like, every single time my phone rang, right? I even gave, like, my phone notifications, like, a distinct ring for his number, so that I knew when it was him and when it wasn't him. And I always check immediately when he texted, and then I would, like, read it and, like, laugh, and then, like, think, like, could craft and compose a reply, but I wouldn't send it. And I would think, like, okay, he sent me this message 7 minutes after I sent my message, so I'm gonna wait 7 minutes, and then I'm gonna send this message. Because I didn't want to seem too desperate, but I didn't want to seem like I wasn't interested either. So so this happened, like, I think maybe over, like, a few days. We just did this, like, long texting back. And, like, later on, apparently Eric was doing the same thing. He was, like, waiting a certain amount of time before he would text me, because he didn't want to seem too desperate either. So I thought that was kind of funny. My roommate, which I mentioned really, really early on, she was like, oh my god, like, Michelle, you actually like this guy. This guy actually, you like, finally found someone that you would like. And I was like, you know what, I really like this guy too. And at the time I thought, like, we were really, like, I was like, why else would this guy text me so much? He must, like, be interested at least. So I waited a little bit, and he didn't ask me on a date. And so I was like, you know what, I'm a Wellesley woman. Like, I don't need a guy to wait for a guy to ask me out, especially if I like him and I think he likes me. So I decided I'd ask him out, and we at that point hadn't really been communicating over anything other than text. I, like, didn't feel comfortable calling him, and, like, I don't think I wanted to wait until the next week on Saturday to like, continue flirting with him or, like, asking him out. Plus, like, I feel like asking people in person is, like, so much more embarrassing than asking over text, because, like, if you have to over text, you can just, like, ignore them for the rest of your life if they say no. Especially if you don't know them very well. And I think over text, it's, like, easier to feel humiliated and not have them see that. But if you're in person, it's like, oh no, okay, and, like, you would, like, awkwardly, like, leave, and you're, like, humiliated. So I know that happened to me. So me and my friends, we kind of, like, grouped together on my phone, and we were, like, trying to figure out a way to text this guy and ask him on a date, because we were, like, like, crafting sentences, like, we were, like, deleting words, like, changing them out. Like, it actually took, like, a decent amount of time to send that text. At that point in our conversation, we'd been talking about movies that we liked, and one of my favorite movies is Gladiator. So I really like Gladiator, and we were talking about, like Gladiator and what, I think he had mentioned at this time he loves Star Wars and Back to the Future. And then I was like, you know what? And we were talking about movies at that moment, and I was like, we should watch a movie together, which I know is a really stupid way of asking someone out. It's a little indirect, at the point. I wasn't like straight up asking him for a date. Like I didn't want to label it a date. Yeah, and then he was sent that text. It was like along those lines, like we should go see a movie together. And then like I like waited, and I was like so anxious, like waited really like. I was like literally staring at my phone, like, oh my god, like, is he gonna say yes? He's gonna say no? What if I like misread everything? What if he says no, and then I have to like deal with him for like, the next however long I'm in this robotics team, and it would be really awkward. But then he responded, and I don't remember exactly what his text said, but it was like, oh yeah, like definitely we should, watch movies sometime. And I think he was also really vague as well. Like both of our texts were kind of vague, and I think both of us were kind of scared of making it concrete in case the other person was just like, oh, we're so friendly, like I'm not romantically interested in you. That dance that you have, I don't know. I think it's something that like everybody experiences when they first start like tentatively dating. Where you just like don't want to like be the over eager one. Don't exactly remember how we ended up making a date. I think like I like pushed for more concrete details. I was like, oh, like maybe this weekend, and he was like, oh sure, and I told him like I really wanted to see this movie Gone Girl at the point, because at that point in time Gone Girl had actually just come out in theaters, and I was like, oh, it looks amazing. I love Rosamund Pike and Ben Affleck, so this sounds like a perfect date movie, and it's also about relationships, at least, or it's like a thriller. I don't know. I thought it would be like a fun thriller to watch. And I thought thrillers, or something that everybody liked, maybe, I don't know. So then like, and then he was like, what kind of food do you want to eat? And I was like, I like sushi, which is funny because I love sushi at that point, and Eric had actually never had sushi before, like I had, before that point, so he was like, oh, like, okay, I guess we can go to sushi. So we actually planned this really nice date where we would go to this sushi place and then go to a movie theater right next to it and then watch Gone Girl. And, we had it all planned out. We would like go after, after the robotics meeting on Saturday, and it was gonna be like a good time. And so we get there at the robotics meeting, and I'm like wearing this like red striped shirt and this these leggings, and he's wearing like this button down shirt, I think, and these like khakis, either khakis or jeans, I don't remember. It's like in October, so it's like kind of cold, and it's like raining. It's like pouring rain at this on this day. I'm like really nervous, and I don't remember like how we got to the meeting. We were like looking at each other all the time, and it was like, I don't know, you know how you just get those like weird like you look at them and then they're not looking at you, and then like you look away and you like kind of like want them to be looking at you, but also like you want them to be looking at you when you're not looking at them, because then it looks like that you get that idea, like you get that kind of like thrill of being wanted without actually having to I don't know. But then you'd also make eye contact sometimes. That was us. Where we would just like basically steal glances at each other, and finally it turned out that at the two meetings that I wanted to do. So there were 3 sections. There was mechanical engineering, and there was computer science, and I wanted to do mechanical and computer science. The only problem was that the meetings were back to back, so computer science was an hour after mechanical, so like we only had like an hour in between to get stuff done. Like we'd miscalculated the plans. So like the hour between mechanical and CS, we decided we obviously don't have enough time to watch a movie. Let's just go eat at this Mexican restaurant. And it was actually the same Mexican restaurant that he was telling me about that was near the bus stop that he really liked. And it was kind of funny. So he takes me to there, and it's like pouring rain, as I said. And then we get in there, and the restaurant's called Border Cafe. And we get inside, and they seat us. By the way, that restaurant's amazing. And and we still go there sometimes. And the service is really, really amazing. And they give us like these like free chips and like salsa, so we're eating. And then we're talking, and like I feel like I remember us like we were like having like a decently like flowy conversation. It wasn't like really awkward at that point. And I look at the menu and I'm like, oh my god, I have no idea what to order. I didn't want to be that person who like ordered the most expensive thing on the menu and then have him pay for it, because I had an inkling that he was going to pay for this. Obviously, I didn't like assume because I didn't ask him, but I had an inkling that he would pay for this because this was like pretty much a date. And so I look at the menu, and the cheapest thing on the menu is guacamole, and the second cheapest thing is this appetizer. It's like border chili, right? It's basically like ground beef and like just chili. So I'm like, okay, I'll get the chili. It was like $5 maybe. It was like so cheap. And I was really nervous. And I remember he got the chicken quesadillas. And the chicken quesadillas are gigantic. There's a lot of food. And so the server comes out with our food, and we're talking, and then I ate a little bit of my chili. I actually only ate about half of my chili. And like the bowl's like this big maybe. It's like a really small bowl of chili. But I was so nervous I just didn't eat, And so by the time it was time for him to pay and like for us to go back to the meeting, I'd only eaten like half of my chili. And so he paid. Obviously I was like, oh, I should pay, I can pay my half. And he's like, no, I'll pay, the whole like who pays kind of game that happened. And then so we went to like the meeting, and after that I remember we went back to the meeting, and it was pouring rain again, and afterwards we decided to go on a walk around Harvard Square, which is kind of a stupid idea considering it was still pouring rain. So we had an umbrella, and we just kind of like walked from like one place to another, like along the Charles River, and it was actually nice, but my shoes definitely got completely soaked. And then right before I got on the bus to go, because I was like, you know what, like we had good chemistry. I think we should have another date. So before I got on the bus, I actually invited him to this concert that we were having the next day. I was like, oh yeah, we're having this like really cool concert, and like someone kind of semi-famous is coming. I don't remember who it was. It was just an excuse to like invite him to Wellesley. I was like, we should go to the concert together. And he was like, oh yeah, like totally, of course. So we kind of booked our second date the day after we had our first date, which is, I think, kind of funny. And then, so the next day comes, and he comes over at like maybe late afternoon. And I was like, oh, maybe we can take a walk on the lake, because Wellesley has this beautiful, beautiful lake. And on October, I think it was still like fallish time, so it wasn't like frozen or anything. So we walk around the lake, and it starts getting really late at night, right? It's like pitch. So I would say it's like starts to become like dim, in terms of how like light it is. And we found this little like nook, like where you kind of look, you can like, it's like, yeah, there are trees kind of like all along the pond, like the lake, but there's like a tiny little nook where like there are no trees, and you can just like look straight at the water and then sit down. So that's what we did. We sit down next to the water, and it's really funny because Eric and I still like kind of fight over this. I really wanted to hold his hand, but I was putting my hand down and he didn't grab it, so I was like, but he claims that I didn't put my hand down so that he couldn't grab it, so we'll never know unless we like time travel back or something. I sat down and we start talking, we start talking about like our past relationships. I mean, he's been in relationships before me, but I'm not really before him. And we started talking about, like, just like, I don't know, personal issues, or not issues, but like personal stuff. And we talked for such a long time, and it was so romantic because it was like pitch black, and it was like totally dark, and you could see like the moonlight on the lake water, just kind of like the reflection. And it was like really still at night, so you could just see the moon, and it was like very, very picturesque. And then after, a few hours, we were like, oh God, it's so late. So we get up from our little nook, and we start walking back, and it's completely pitch black. Like, good thing I had walked around this lake before, else we would have gotten hopelessly lost. And I remember we used his flashlight from his phone to kind of find the forest path so that we could follow it back. And we were like halfway on that lake, so we still had like maybe half a mile to walk. And I was like wearing this like horrible leather jacket and like these like horribly like, I mean they're really cute but like not very good for like intense walking. And they were like these like little booties with like a tiny little heel. And I remember like, oh yeah, and I remember when we were still in that nook, I was like, hey, so past 2 days, are they dates? So I wanted to clear that up. And I remember he paused for a long time and he looked over and he was like, do you want them to be dates? He like just, I don't know, he just didn't want to answer the question. So I was like, yeah, I want them to be dates. He was like, okay, then they were dates. And I remember like at some point he was, I was like leaning into him and he put his arm around me and he was trying to rub my arm, but my jacket, like it was like this weird leather and like it kept on making this like really crazy sound. It was like, ee, 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 ee. And it was just really awkward. So, I was like cursing myself for wearing that jacket. And then we didn't say anything for a long time. And then he like started like, I don't know, he started talking or he started like doing something out of, awkwardness. And I was like, does the silence make you uncomfortable? I think I said something like that. And he was like, and then he like stopped talking. So yeah, that was us. Anyway, so we were walking back in the pitch black. And then we started holding hands, I guess. I don't know how it happened. It just kind of happened. And then finally we made it out of the lake and then we're like, okay, let's let's go back to my room before you catch the bus, because the bus, as I said, is an hourly bus, so you can't just like hop on it whenever you want to. So we still had some time before the bus came. And so I take him to my room and my roommate's there, and so we sit down on my bed and we decide to like watch some videos and listen to YouTube, right? And my roommate's like, okay, I'm gonna leave the room, because she knew all about this. I had like been talking to her about it. So she left the room to study in the common room, and we watched like these YouTube videos. I remember he showed me this really like weird YouTube video where like it's called Happy Tree Family or something. And like it was like this creature, like it was chopping wood. He like gets his leg caught in a bear trap, and then he had to like saw his own leg out of the bear trap, but then it turns out that he like sawed the wrong leg. I don't know why I thought it was like I would love this video, but I was like really freaked out by it. I was like, oh my god, this is so violent. I'm not a huge fan of this. And clearly he regretted that. And then, God, what did I show him? I honestly don't remember what I showed him, but they were much tamer than that video. And then we listened to Spotify, I think at that point Taylor Swift was still on Spotify. And we listened to Enchanted, which at that point was like one of my favorite songs. So we listened to Enchanted together, and I remember my roommate like popped in real quick to grab something from my room, and she like heard us like listening to Enchanted together, and then she came back out, and then so the bus comes, and I walk him to the bus stop, and before he gets on the bus, he gives me a hug, right? He goes for a hug, and it was really funny because he was going for a kiss, but I was going for a hug. Because, like, I don't know what happened. And so we knocked heads, like, we physically, like, bumped our heads together because the angles were, like, all wrong. And then, like, I started, like, nervously giggling. And then I, like, and then I started, like, running away from the bus. And then he got on the bus, obviously, and like, left. And I remember, like, him being like, oh my, like later on he was like, oh my god, like you were so cute, you just started giggling, like, and then just like literally sprinted away, and I just like didn't know what to do, so I ran away. and yeah, so those were our first 2 days, and that's how we kind of met. And then our third date was when we like made it official that we were like gonna be boyfriend and girlfriend exclusive. He took me to the Science Museum in Boston, and it was a lot of fun that we went together. And then we walked kind of along the Charles River and ate at the Cheesecake Factory, which he said at that point was the most expensive like date that he had been on. But like because all his previous girlfriends, like he said, like the most expensive thing that he had like, you know, place that he had been with them was Macaroni Grill. So I guess I was special that way. Yeah, and then we kissed on our third date, and it kind of went there, you know. By the third date, we were boyfriend and girlfriend. We were like official, and that's kind of how it happened. And so I think just a few weeks ago on October 4th was our second anniversary. So we have been together for 2 years, and it's kind of funny because he was like the first date I'd ever been on, and he ended up being my boyfriend for 2 years, and hopefully for longer. We're pretty good. He's like really sweet, and like he's smart. He's a senior at Harvard now. He was a sophomore. He was a sophomore when I met him, and he's a senior now. And he's 1 year older than me, and he does physics, and he's in a lab now, and he's applying to grad school. So anyway, that's the story of how we met. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Hopefully it didn't bore you. And if you guys, you know, at some point want like tips on how, you know, on dating in college, if you guys are interested, let me know in the comments below. And yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed that, and I hope that you guys, if you like it, give it a thumbs up. And if you know, want to see new videos every Monday, then to subscribe to my channel. Bye!